When Gulliver woke up, he found himself surrounded by tiny people no bigger than ants, and he was tied down by countless ropes. Startled, he let out a loud shout, and the huge sound waves scattered the little people in all directions. Gulliver was a ship's doctor, and his ship had been wrecked at sea. To his surprise, he had drifted all the way to the land of these tiny people. Soon after, the army arrived. They were worried that Gulliver might be a weapon sent by the neighboring land of the big-headed people, so they planned to capture him and bring him to the palace. Because Gulliver was so enormous, they had to cut down over 10,000 trees to build a wooden frame just big enough to hold him. It took more than 100 horses to pull it, and only then could they barely get him into the city. Finally, he was brought into the palace. At the same time, they arrested 2 men, accusing them of stealing state property. The emperor ordered that the 2 men be fed to the giant. Gulliver swallowed one of the strong men in a single gulp, then chewed a bit before spitting out his hat. The king was nervous but tried to keep calm. However, to everyone's surprise, the strong man soon walked out unharmed. Gulliver's kindness and friendliness eased the king's suspicions. But keeping Gulliver confined was a huge burden. He consumed 1,728 times the food of an average tiny person every day, and his bed was as large as 600 of their beds combined. At this rate, the entire tiny kingdom would soon go bankrupt. Moreover, Gulliver's massive size made the grand palace look like a toy house. He could crush a soldier's weapon with just one finger. Still, the king remained warm and welcoming, especially the queen, who often smiled kindly at him. Gulliver noticed that the tiny kingdom's election system was very unusual. Promotions weren't based on contributions to the country, but on one's ability to crawl and jump, which were considered noble arts. The king held a stick, and candidates had to skillfully crawl and jump over it as its height changed. Whoever showed the greatest agility would earn the highest position. During one such selection, a man named Rook was the most agile and was immediately appointed as the Chief Justice. The previous Chief Justice had been executed just moments before. The king then received news that the big-headed gang had built a massive fleet, with each ship carrying 500 cannons, while the biggest ship in the tiny kingdom had only 50. The sailors were terrified and preferred surrender over fighting. Seeing this, the king had no choice but to call on Gulliver. Secretly diving underwater, Gulliver dragged away all of the big-headed gang's warships and easily defeated the enemy. For a time, Gulliver became a hero in the tiny kingdom, with streets empty as people lined up to welcome him. The king personally awarded him the highest honor medal. However, the king's son insisted that Gulliver must kill every single member of the big-headed gang to prove his loyalty. Gulliver refused, believing there was no need for total extermination. In fact, the war between the tiny kingdom and the big-headed gang had lasted many years, and the reason for the conflict was absurd. It all started over a single egg.